Welcome to We Question and Learn here on WQLN Radio. Today, an absolute honor for me, and I already know it's going to be a pleasure to talk to Michael E. Hill, the 18th president of the Chautauqua Institution. Michael, 2017 to today, where has the time gone?
Well, Tom, thanks for having me again. It's always a joy to have a conversation with you, and I can't believe that this summer assembly will be my fifth as Chautauqua's president. The time is flying.
So in that whole period of time, you created many things at the institution, one of which I think you have a program that you've aptly named 150 Forward. Is that correct?
That's right. We spent almost the first 2 years of my presidency in a deep listening tour. The institution was ready for a new strategic plan. We had just concluded a capital campaign, the Promise campaign, which I had the tremendous joy of celebrating the conclusion of, especially given that I did not contribute one iota to its success. My predecessor, Tom Becker, had done an incredible job. And we were asking questions about what was next. And the result of those 2 years of listening tours was a document that we call 150 Forward, which is a nod to our 150th birthday in 2024, and asked the questions about what should we look like when we turn 150 years old. And it's a document I'm unbelievably excited about. It pushes the institution to consider itself as a year-round player. It talks about ways we might strengthen what will always be the purest manifestation of our mission, our summer assembly season. And it called out really the ways in which the institution needed to mature into this era in the world and all that was happening in the world. So I hope your listeners will take a look at it. It's on our website. You can read both the long form and the short form of it, but it's really been guiding our work since its passage, and it's the North Star, if you will, as we look toward 2024 and our sesquicentennial.
Well, I'm allowed to say this. I always felt that Erie, Pennsylvania was a suburb of the Chautauqua Institution.
Erie is a huge part of our patron and visitor base, and some of the most important sons and daughters of Chautauqua call Erie their year-round home. I am deeply proud of and often marvel that the institution is based where it is in Western New York, and we are a proud citizen of Western New York. It is our home, and Western New York has been good to us in return. So it's a symbiotic relationship, to be sure.
I would offer folks, I'm not going to read your resume because the program, we would eat up the entire half hour. And as I meet folks like you, and it's an honor to speak with you, by the way, I always ask the question, when do you sleep? As I look through this, I'm imagining you take the same energy today as you put into your career over the years. But what do you feel was your biggest accomplishment, if I could ask?
At Chautauqua, or just
just generally in your career, just so people can get a flavor. And I want them to go to the Chautauqua website and read your resume. But as I go through this, you've accomplished so much in your lifetime. And I think you're the youngest president of the Chautauqua Institution. Am I right?
I think that's true. As soon as I say that, someone, including our historian, will tell me that there was someone younger, and that's fine.
That's okay.
But I'll, among the youngest, I said this when I was appointed, and I feel this every day. I feel really blessed to have been placed in almost the right place, right time kind of scenario through much of my life. I hope people think I work hard, but I really have been lucky to have been helped out by mentors and others across a career that I think helped position me to be a temporary steward of Chautauqua's mission. We are working right now. I'm spending a week in our Washington, D.C. office, which is a relatively new advent for Chautauqua that's growing.
Great.
Great. You asked me about one of my prouder moments. I'm probably about 3 miles away from Arena Stage, where
Oh,
I had
wow.
the tremendous honor of serving as the director of a capital campaign that built this incredible new complex in the nation's capital for American theater. Um, I started my career in Western New York and at St. Bonaventure University, which is my alma mater, and had the privilege of running a relatively new art center there.
You mentioned that you took 2 years to do a study, so to speak, of what
Yeah.
Chautauqua needed. Now, obviously, I'm sure you've done some disaster and stress planning for the institution, but how would you have known about COVID-19 and the pandemic? And how are you managing this now? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Chautauqua is an institution that has this tremendous narrative around it. And I mean, there are as many stories about what makes Chautauqua special as there are years that it's been in existence. And one of the things that we would talk about pre-COVID was Chautauqua's resilience. It had survived the Spanish flu and still convened people. It survived the Great Depression. It survived fires. It survived its own
Mm.
deep financial troubles.
Hmm.
And so the lore that got built up around Chautauqua, which I think it earned, is that nothing would stop us from convening a summer assembly of conversations.
Hmm.
And then COVID hit.
Hmm.
And I was talking to I was on a panel yesterday with other not-for-profit leaders talking about managing through COVID. And I painted a picture for them. I said, we really, I think in this country, started to sincerely believe that COVID-19 was going to be more than a fad in March
Hmm.
of last year. And I remember our vice president of religion launching what would become a weekly series of interfaith prayers during the pandemic. And he wrote the first one, and it was timed in length that if you read it, it was the CDC prescribed number of minutes you were supposed to wash your hands.
Wow.
And we were encouraging people to hang it up by their sinks and their bathrooms and their kitchens. And so I did. I hung it up, and I remember thinking then, at most, this thing is going to be on the wall for 3 months. And here we
Right.
are a year later, and it's still on the wall of my bathroom.
Do you have that posted
And
on your website by any chance?
I have it posted on my Facebook
I'll find it.
page,
I'll find it.
uh,
I'll find it. It'll
but
Yeah, it'll be on my
it
mirror in the morning as well.
yeah, it was insane. So how did we manage? So that's in March.
Hmm.
April it comes and it's getting worse. And in May, our board of trustees meets and decides, really for the first time ever, that we can't safely convene in-person programming. And I remember thinking that no matter what successes or failures happen during my presidency at Chautauqua, my legacy is going to be that we didn't gavel in a season. And I use that word because, as you know,
Hmm.
we launch every season with an address called Three Taps of the Gavel. It's part of
Hmm.
our history.
Hmm.
And we close each summer assembly season with a sister address and the tap of a historic gavel. And then the remarkable thing happened, which I credit this unbelievable team of people I get the privilege of working with, and a very courageous board of trustees who we said, okay, we understand we might not be able to do it in person, but what if we do the whole season anyway,
Hmm.
and we just do it virtually? And we didn't go to Zoom and we didn't go to Facebook. We had used those tools before. But in 9 weeks and $1 million later, we
Hmm.
stood up a multi-platform digital collective called CHQ Assembly,
Hmm.
in which we did all of our lectures, all of our chaplains, all of our interfaith lectures, a good portion of our arts programming. We retained some of the most cherished traditions of Chautauqua, not only that address, but our Heritage Lecture Series, 4th of July celebration with our Chautauqua Symphony Orchestra. and something remarkable happened. We were being viewed in 50 countries. People that started one of our programs, 85% of the people that started it finished it, and these were long form programs. These were an hour and a half to 2 hour programs, and we convened some of the most provocative conversations, I think, in our history. And we program that to this day. So we've done partnerships with Wynton Marsalis, with the United States Memorial Holocaust Museum, and with so many others, continuing a conversation year-round, which is called for in our strategic plan. The blessing of that was not only did we not become the first group that didn't convene the conversation at this unbelievable, storied place, but we accelerated our strategic plan by launching a vehicle that we thought we would beta test for 18 months before we launched it, and we created it, launched it, and ran it in 9 weeks.
Wow.
And it's a testimony to the real unsung heroes, which is the team of people I get to work with. Someone you know well, thank God, she accepted my invitation to come work with me a few years ago. Emily Morris, who had started her own career in Erie, was the mastermind behind this and brought all of her television and radio and communication skills to bear in partnership with PBS and some of the architects of the New York Times going online. And she built this thing and ran it and produced it. And for your listeners, you can see everything we did last summer and everything we've done since at CHQ Assembly. And so it's assembly.chq.org. It's only $3.99 a month for a subscription. There's a trial basis in there. I mean, so for less than a cup of coffee, you can have access to, scores of lectures and artist presentations and preachers and teachers. You can take classes online. I mean, it's just remarkable. I couldn't be more proud, clearly, because I'm going on and on and on about it. But that was the blessing of COVID, and really one of the great success stories of how this pandemic, if there's any silver lining, that was it for us.
So let's say this all goes away in 2022. It's going to be hard to manage this, but you will go back to the original format.
Yeah, and we hope to go back in some fashion this summer to the format. We know it, well, as I've learned to say during COVID, I time stamp everything. So with what we know today, because tomorrow the world may look entirely different, and that's certainly been our experience every day of this pandemic. We hope to present all 9 weeks in person. We know that we will have to scale back exponentially the facilities we use and put in protocols. We also know that given today's New York State guidelines, we wouldn't be able to do much, but we have confidence that those are going to change. And we've been in pretty constant communication with our colleagues in government about what we can anticipate. So we hope to be back in as much of a fashion as we can this summer. CHQ Assembly will be a great blessing, because for those who can't join us, either because of capacity restrictions or they don't feel safe or they're just not able to be there this summer, we'll be able to continue the conversation. So we'll run that all again this summer. And then in 2022, assuming that that we are back to whatever the new normal is, we'll not only do what we've done in the past, but we will continue to bring those programs on CHQ Assembly, and maybe even more. So
this is We Question and Learn with Michael E. Hill, the 18th president of the Chautauqua Institution. We're grateful you're here. I just had an interesting thought. Isn't it a blessing that the institution, the amphitheater, is outdoors basically?
Yeah, it is, wonky regulations, right? So it is outdoors, but because it has a permanent roof over it.
Oh, it's considered a building.
It's considered a building.
Yeah.
So we'll see what that means for us.
I imagine spacing everyone out adequately, even plus some space, but having this outdoor breeze and this outdoor environment, so to speak, would have made that $41 million an even better investment.
Oh, God, yeah. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
including the ways in which that facility is wired for digital distribution. We
Yes.
used the back of house of the amphitheater
Hmm.
all summer as one of our digital studios. So
Oh,
that
fabulous.
investment continues to pay off for the mission of Chautauqua Institution.
You have one of the most interesting, outstanding, and most worldwide boards that I know of, and you can correct me. But it's true. You're truly an international. You're truly a global organization, relative at least to your board of directors. Am I close?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And these men and women are remarkable people
Hmm.
who always work hard and are present. But during COVID, I have to say, the unsung heroes in the not-for-profit space, folks like me get to talk about what we did often.
Hmm.
I look at the 24 people who serve on the board of trustees of the institution and think they are working as hard as our staff team is, and they don't get paid a dime.
Hmm.
Matter of fact, they give to serve, and they have to say that they have been our partners throughout this entire pandemic doesn't do it justice. I mean, the executive committee of my board, I think, has met every week for a year with very few exceptions. The regular board of trustees, which would normally meet 4 times, I think has probably met 9 in the past
Wow.
year. Um, and because they come from such varied and accomplished backgrounds, they have lent their expertise. And I'll just give you one example, and there are tons. Dr. Helene Gale, who is the president of the Chicago Community Foundation,
Hmm.
has been one of the Biden administration's point people on vaccine rollouts because she used to work at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. She used to be the CEO of CARE and did work at the CDC around infectious diseases. One of the principal architects and advisors for the entire nation on vaccine rollout is a member of our board of trustees.
Wow.
And so thank God
Hmm.
for this group of people. I can't thank them enough. They've just been brilliant about understanding their roles as advisors and fiduciaries, and yet still allowing us to run the day-to-day of the institution. So many boards at a time of crisis
Hmm.
will overreach and try to step in, and they haven't. And I just can't say enough about the leadership of our board of trustees during this time.
And it's a phenomenal story. Now, this is fascinating that you mentioned the folks you did because it would cost you an immense amount of money to have these folks be your personal consultants, and you
Absolutely.
and you have them.
Yeah, they're just incredible, and their love of the institution and their compassion for people and their courage in pushing boundaries. And I mean, the other thing I am profoundly proud of during this pandemic is we did not reduce our full-time workforce,
Hmm.
um, and that doesn't take away from the pain of the many part-time and seasonal employees we weren't able to hire, because I know how important that is to our local economy.
Hmm.
Uh, but our board really understood and doubled down on the importance of people, and we were able to keep our staff employed and redeployed, because many of them ended up doing work on CHQ assembly and
Hmm.
learning new trades and new ways of doing things. But our board could have pushed us to have expense reduction be the sign of success, and they really understood that serving the mission of the institution and the impact on our regional economy and on people's lives was more important than saving a few dollars here or there. So I just can't say enough about the shared leadership of the Board of Trustees of Chautauqua Institution. They've been just outstanding.
That's an immense amount of wisdom because I think sometimes when people downsize, and if you remember 2008 and some of those less beneficial years to corporations and as well as nonprofits. The folks that let people go struggled and almost it cost them twice as much to jumpstart the organization. And what you're saying, you're ready to go. You're all lined up. Everybody's at their desk or wherever they are at home. You're ready to take off again.
Well, and that's, it's funny that you use that phrasing because there was a donor who, I mean, and again, our donors have, and folks that come to us every year have been really generous. They donated back gate fees. We had one of our best years philanthropically
Mm-hmm.
from an annual giving standpoint because I think people understood that something like this could make institutions like ours go away,
Mm-hmm.
and so they doubled down. But I was talking to a donor early in the pandemic, and we were talking about funding, and we're going to announce it in the next week or so, our first ever full-time chief diversity officer. And
Mm-hmm.
I said to this donor, I hope it doesn't feel odd to you that I'm asking for support for this while we're in the middle of a global pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, look, the smart organizations,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you have to manage the crisis that you have right now, but are going to find ways that on the other side of this, they can step on the accelerator and take off. Those are the organizations that are going to thrive post-pandemic. And so
Yes.
it's essential that you're doing this work.
Yeah.
So kudos to visionary philanthropists who also understood how to make sure this institution will come out strong on the other side.
As you look forward, you mentioned you have the 150 forward.
Yeah.
You mentioned a new appointee to a very critical position for the institution. What are
Yeah.
some of the other projects that you are looking at, if we could ask?
Sure. Well, the arc of 150 Forward calls the institution to be more in the world. And I always like to remind people that the institution in its history have had these moments when it looked around and saw a need greater than what we do in the summer and met it. So whether that is the launch of the Chautauqua Literary and Scientific Circle, one of the oldest forms of distance learning in the nation, where we were sending books and, in essence, correspondence courses, if you will, out to rural areas, to underprivileged areas where education wasn't prevalent, whether it was when the institution decided to run a 3-year Chautauqua Soviet dialogues that kind of spanned over the course of the year. The institution has had these moments where it will tackle something bigger because the nation or the world needs it to. And that's really the thrust behind 150 Forward. It's how do we help a nation that is comprised of people that keep saying that they don't know how to talk to their friends and family and neighbors who may think differently than they do.
Mm-hmm.
How do we help them understand critical issues? How do we help them enter into dialogue across those issues? We could hold up any number of examples from last year, whether it was the killing of George Floyd that reignited, or continued and amplified the sad story about unmet race relations in the nation, the contentious election cycle, the inequities that are laid bare even by this pandemic. There's just so much going on in the world, and so 150 Forward says, hey, we have a role to play in that. And how do we help conversations continue? How do we think through and provide citizens with information and tools to better understand topics and make their own communities a stronger place? And so you'll see that in the part of our plan that says we should be going year-round. We should do more on our grounds, on our campus in Western New York, but we should also do things away from our campus, whether that's digitally or in other cities. And so that's there. There's some less glamorous catch-up stuff that we need to do, work around technology and infrastructure that we will tackle in this, and some exciting new projects that we think will grow out our grounds in Western New York and hopefully make it a year-round destination that feeds and sustains and pushes our local economy and community to new heights. So I'm super jazzed about it. I'm excited to see and share all that I hope we'll be celebrating in 2024. It's going to be incredible to say happy 150th birthday, Chautauqua, and I think I won't say if, I'll say when we do this right. I think it has the potential to not only transform our home community, but allow us to be a significant part of a solution in a world that needs it.
Right before you came, I had the honor and privilege of interviewing Tom Becker, and I gave him a blank check for volunteerism on my part. So it should be sitting somewhere. It may be stuck in one of your drawers behind. So if you happen to dig that up, you know how to find me. But did you ever think, sitting at a desk at the Chautauqua Institution in 1996, doing some editing and copywriting, that you would eventually become the president of this wonderful, outstanding worldwide organization?
I had no clue.
It wasn't on your agenda.
No. Dan Bratton was president when I first came to Chautauqua.
Yes.
And I remember being a copy editor, assistant editor of the daily newspaper at the institution, and just looking at him with awe.
Yes.
And just thinking, I love to hear him speak. I have no idea how he does what he does. This place is so complex. How does he even keep it anywhere in his head? And fast forward, to 2017, walking into the president's office at the institution. And I think the takeaway and the secret probably for all presidents is none of us have ever had it all in our head. And, we are as much a participant in the journey as we are short-term stewards of something magical that was created long before any of us were alive.
Well, I have to honestly tell you, it's an honor just to be able at times to walk around the institution. It's a fabulous experience.
Yeah, really, it's a magical place, and it's got bigger and better work to do in the world, and that's our goal and our job for this period of time. We talk a lot, those of us that are privileged enough to serve it as staff members, and I consistently, even through this interview, have talked about we're temporary stewards, and I think each of us asked the question about what do we do with all of the plentiful gifts that exist at this magical place to make the world just slightly better, because Chautauqua is a full toolbox. It's all there. It's how do you mold it or pick out the right tools for the time that you have. And I think 150 Forward is our best guess of the ways that the universe is calling us to use this magical place to quote a biblical phrase, for such a time as this.
Saddest part of my job is to say we're out of time, because I could spend out.
Perfect. There you go.
Yeah, but that we could apply that a couple of ways. But it's such an honor and a privilege to be able to hear your voice on the air here, and I know a lot of folks, both on WQLN and now on NPR One and the other podcasts, will be listening to your good words, and I think they're going to hear your spirit and your energy. And Michael Hill, thank you very much for this wonderful half hour.
I'm Bob Mondello. Storytelling is my beat. As a movie critic, it's also what I do for NPR. I tell stories about star warriors and librarians in musicals and Shakespeare's refugees, stories that tie the arts to the world we live in, that are funny, diverse, eye-opening, stories that engage you, because you are what NPR is all about. Thanks for listening to this NPR station.
I'm Michelle Martin. These days it seems like just about everybody is choosing sides and doubling down on talking points. Here at NPR, we try to cut through the noise with meaningful and respectful discussions with people from all perspectives, backgrounds, and walks of life. Join the conversation every weekend on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Saturday and Sunday afternoons at 5 on WQLN Radio.
Welcome to We Question and Learn. This is Tom Pysz. Welcome to our program. We have the executive director of the food bank, Karen Seggi. Good morning as we record this. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me today.
As I was looking around your website and gathering up information for the program, you yourself have an incredible history with the food bank. You've been there quite a while. You've been working there diligently for a long number of years. Am I right?
Way to make me feel old.
No. You started when you were 7 years old.
That's right. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, you're going to have to race with. You don't have to do the age bracket with me. I've got you beat. But what I was trying to
We'll do the math later.
Yeah, we'll do the math later. What we're trying to do is let people know that you have invested an incredible amount of your time and life into the food bank, the Second Harvest Food Bank, and you've had two positions there, right?
Actually, three. I started off as the accountant. Well, it's really kind of two, but the accountant position evolved into a business manager eventually, and then I was. Then I achieved the recognition of executive director back in 2001. Sue Cascio was my predecessor, and to my dismay and to everybody else's surprise, she announced her retirement very early in her career.
Oh.
And I had the opportunity to move into that position. But it definitely wasn't something, I guess I shouldn't say that. I had always felt that I would move into that position, but that wasn't perfect timing for me. But hey, what in life is perfect timing? I was 8 months pregnant with my son.
Oh,
I had a 2-year-old, and as a matter of fact, the day that I had my interview for this position, the next day I gave birth to my son. So
the concept of a food bank, how did it start in Erie?
We have an interesting history. As a matter of fact, Sister Augusta Hamill, who was the first director here, she was a Benedictine sister. She was a historian. She taught history in high school, and so we have every article, every newspaper clipping of Second Harvest from the very beginning. So I'm glad that we did that because it's nice to be able to take a look back at where we are, or where we were, where we are right now, and where we hope to go. But in 1981, we were incorporated, but we didn't, really set up shop until 1982. And at that time, it was really just a group of concerned citizens, some folks who were involved in the food industry, some food merchants who realized that there was hunger in our area. At that time, if you're old like me, you can remember the typical stereotype of somebody that was hungry or somebody that would need food was that of a hobo jumping the railroad tracks, and going from town to town, and who would stop at a soup kitchen every now and again for a meal. But at this time in the early 80s, there was significant poverty, and for the first time in our nation's history, the TV cameras were showing mothers with their children at soup kitchens getting fed that way. And so we knew as a society we could do better, and we knew that there were grocery stores and manufacturers who were throwing food away, not that they wanted to throw food away, but for one reason or another, it couldn't be sold, whether it was overproduction or mistakes in production. We're only human.
Or even some of the regulations that restaurants and supermarkets have relative to food and safety.
You're absolutely right.
There's some things that look perfectly good to me. I'm sorry, but yeah.
You're right. You're right. The food, if you were to walk into our warehouse right now, we have a 60,000 square foot warehouse, and walk around. I wish I had a nickel for every time somebody came to the food bank, walked around and said, "Oh, it looks just like Sam's Club." Because honest to God, my kids would go to college for free if that was
true. Yeah.
But it does. It looks just like Sam's Club, and the food that we have is perfectly fine. It was overproduction or a mistake in manufacturing. And I'll give you an example. We get the Goober peanut butter and jelly. We have a constant supply. Thank goodness for Smucker's company, which is located in our service area in Clarion County. The first couple runs of every production that they have is just overloaded in errors. And
Wow.
they can't sell it. They don't want to put their name on that product, but the lines are squiggly, or maybe there's too much jelly.
Yeah, so the label is the problem, not the food.
Correct.
That's
Absolutely.
almost
So
astounding. Yeah.
it is. But you know what? Back in the day, they couldn't sell it, so they would just send it to landfills. And we're kind of the ultimate recycler, and food rescue organization, because we're taking that food, we're stopping it from going into landfills, and we are channeling that through our anti-hunger network, and it's ultimately ending up on somebody's table, somebody who is in need of more food, and that's really a very cool thing to be part of.
Now, explain to me the big picture. You're not like a supermarket, but you are. How logistically does the food bank work?
Well, we are like a supermarket. You are correct. The difference is that people do not pay for the food that they're getting.
Well, that's
from
what I was going. It's
our-
not like they don't walk around in a building and shop. You pick.
No, we are the organization, and I guess you just need to get a little visual here or
Yes.
there of this. We're the only food bank in Northwest Pennsylvania, and when I'm talking about 11 counties in Northwest Pennsylvania, we go as far as Clearfield County. But we're very strong here in Erie County. This is where we're located. This is the biggest populated county in our service area. So this is really, our bread and butter right here in Erie County. We're like the wholesaler. The agencies, the food pantries, the soup kitchens, the shelters, and other nonprofit organizations, they are like the retailers, and then the clients that they're serving are like the consumers. So that's kind of a real, simplistic overview of how it works at the food bank. But I have to say, in the last probably decade, Second Harvest has taken on more of a role as a member agency, more and more, simply because times change. If most of our food pantries are staffed by volunteers, folks who have retired and wanted to do something to help their community, and so they staff a food pantry, and they are very dedicated individuals, very good people. But it becomes almost a full-time job again. And I don't know about you, but when I retire, I'm looking to do some traveling and
Wrong. I retired a year and a half ago. I'm sorry. Although I've known people that are still doing this somehow. I don't know if they're wearing spacesuits or helmets or what are they doing to get away with it. But back at home, and now I know you're alluding to the COVID-19, the pandemic. This has probably changed you dramatically. Am I right?
Oh, I don't know of anybody COVID hasn't affected or altered or changed in one way or another. But absolutely, you haven't said anything more true than COVID has changed Second Harvest and in our society as a whole.
I was sort of wondering how dramatically has it changed you? What's different?
Well, that we've I don't have enough fingers and toes to count how many times things have changed in the past year. Simply because at the very beginning, the onset of COVID, nobody really knew how do you get it, how do you keep yourself safe, and so I think we were all just putting in measures to be ultra conservative and ultra safe. And although we still need to do that because the pandemic is still with us and we still have to keep ourselves safe, some things have changed, but a lot of things are still in existence. For example, we are doing drive-through distributions.
Okay.
I'm hopeful that sometime in the near future we can go back to pre-COVID distributions. When I mentioned that we're taking on the role of one of our member agencies, one example of that is we take our trucks. We've got a beverage truck, if you can picture that, one of those pop trucks that transport beverages. We took that, and it's actually a mobile food pantry truck for us. So in each compartment, there's a different commodity, a different food. It's refrigerated, so and part of it's frozen, so we can put in dry goods, refrigerated goods, and frozen goods. We can go to a parking lot in a church or in a VFW or a storefront parking lot, and we can get there. Volunteers meet us there. They take the food out. People walk around the truck. They select what they want, and we're in and out of there within an hour. It's very, very efficient and very effective. But, during COVID, we wanted to, you have to make sure you're 6 feet apart from each other. We wanted to make sure that everybody was staying safe. And so what we were doing, instead of letting people make their choices, which is my preferred method of distributing food, but in a situation that the circumstances that we were under, we packed boxes and tried to get something for everyone in those boxes. And so we asked people, stay in your cars. We've got volunteers. Just open up your trunk. We'll put the box in your trunk. Actually, it's usually 3 or 4 boxes. One is refrigerated, one is frozen, and a couple of dry boxes, so that people had enough food to get them through, a couple weeks span, so that they didn't have to leave their house and, they didn't have to risk contracting COVID. But that's our no-touch drive-through method, and that's something that we're continuing to this day, a year later.
Well, the big box stores are doing that too. You can drive up, get your order, and leave.
Yeah. You got to make sure that people are comfortable. Our volunteers weren't comfortable doing a walk-around method anymore. They wanted to be safe, but they still wanted to help their community. So you try different things, and that's what's working for us right now. And most of our agencies are doing the same thing. So hopefully, as the vaccines roll out, everybody could, if not feel a little bit safer, at least be a little bit safer. Maybe we can start going back to some interaction with our neighbors and giving them the option of what they want to take.
This is Tom Pysz. This is We Question and Learn on WQLN Radio and various other podcast venues, including NPR One. Our guest today, Karen S. Seggi, the Chief Executive Officer of the Second Harvest Food Bank of Northwest Pennsylvania. What a wonderful title. That's obviously gone back to your Benedictine founder, I believe, right?
Right. Correct.
Wonderful.
Sister Augusta Hamel.
It's amazing. The Benedictines are always there when you need them. Isn't that true? I didn't know the relevance of that statement to your organization. Now, in this COVID era, how are you doing you're mostly a volunteer organization. Is that correct?
We have about, somewhere between 70 and 95 volunteers that come every week.
Wow.
It's been a challenge, really, because for a good 4 months, once the pandemic was declared, we couldn't allow volunteers into our building, nor did anybody really want to. Well, they did. They wanted to come. I'm not going to lie, but not our regular volunteers. A lot of them had called and said, we're just going to take a break for a while.
Yeah.
And I understand that. I totally understand that. But at that time, everybody was afraid of being affected by COVID. Yeah. And so what we did here at Second Harvest, because I don't have the staff really to make up the difference for all of those people that come and volunteer, but we needed to pack boxes, and we needed to make sure that we were distributing an ever-increasing amount of food. And so a lot of us, our kids weren't in school anymore. My kids were back from college because colleges closed, and high schools were going virtual.
Good. You could put them to work.
Yeah, we did.
Yes,
we
you did. Yeah.
And you know what? Everybody here who had their children here, they felt comfortable because they knew where their kids were at. They knew that they were safe. And we knew that we had a little bubble here.
You had an established protocol that protected the family, protected their family. Your family as an organization, their families as volunteers. But let me ask the critical problem. Folks are not working. So the need for the Second Harvest Food Bank has increased dramatically. How are you compensating for this? How is this working out for you?
What's interesting is that the number of new individuals who have come, yes, the numbers have increased. That is accurate. But during COVID, we saw so many new families who were looking for emergency food relief more than ever. And I'm just going to give you an example. We collect statistics from our agencies. We ask them every month, how many people are you serving? How many people need to come more than once? Those types of things. How many adults, children, elderly? So, and how many are there for the very first time? So from March to December, March 2020 to December 2020, in our service area, there were 62,000, almost 63,000 new individuals who had sought emergency food relief from one of our member agencies. In 2019, there were just 50,000.
And that's over all your counties that you serve?
That was from all of our counties.
Yeah.
And that was a 26% increase. But I took a look at Erie County because I thought, that's where the majority of the people are living in Erie County. And the percentage was exactly 26% as well. In 2020, during that time frame from March to December, there were 34,142 new individuals who sought emergency food relief. Compared to the prior year in 2019, there was just 27,000. So that was also a 26% increase. So that tells me that those statistics are consistent. They're reliable.
Thank goodness you're there, because as I look around, and I'm as patriotic as the next guy, but it just amazes me that in our great country, anybody would go hungry. So
I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
It startles me to think the number of folks, and it's some outstanding percentage of the population. I looked it up, but I forgot to write it down. Now, you're serving a need, and right now you're covering an increase of 26% of folks that needed you in the first place. So I think the Second Harvest Food Bank, to a good degree, is a barometer on how COVID is affecting our society. But even before COVID, you were satisfying a very urgent need. How does this come about? Is it just the work environment, the employment environment? Is it just people fall on hard times? In all the years that you've been working diligently at this, what are your observations of why we even need a food bank? No offense to you.
No, I totally agree with you. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we were no longer needed? That's really the goal here is, to make sure that people are making enough money to pay all their bills and buy groceries at the same time. Tom, the reason is poverty. Food insecurity isn't anything new. Our food bank and our network has been dealing and combating food insecurity since we were founded in the early 80s. What is different now is that COVID has really shone a light on the issues involved with food insecurity and has really brought it to the forefront where people need to acknowledge that it's a problem and that the root cause of food insecurity is poverty. How many people are living paycheck to paycheck simply because wages are not keeping up with the cost of managing your household, paying your bills? If you're working, you obviously need a car, insurances, health care, education, all of those necessities in life have increased, and yet wages have not increased in proportion with that. So the very first line item in a family's budget that is compromised is food, because you've got your fixed expenses, you've got your rent, you've got your insurances, you've got your gas and your electric and so forth. Whatever you have left over is what you use to buy food. And sometimes that's very little or nothing at all. And that's why folks are looking to Second Harvest for help with feeding their families. So if we really are concerned about feeding hungry children and making sure that they can concentrate in school and learn and to, take care of our country when we're old, then maybe we need to invest in making sure that, they have enough to eat and that their families are able to provide them the infrastructure that they need to be successful. And in order to do that, we have to address poverty.
Before we run out of time here, how does the state or the federal government or even different organizations, say the city or even other nonprofits, how do they help you?
Well, our network as a whole, and if we're talking about how they help Second Harvest and
Yes.
making sure that we're successful in our mission,
Yes.
it really is a collaborative effort. We do get very broad support from government entities, from businesses, from churches, from individuals, and that's really why we are successful. Hunger is something that we've all experienced. It's something at one time or another we've all been hungry. The difference is many of us can go to our cupboards and satisfy that issue, and some of us can't. And so, our state provides a state grant for us that we use to purchase food. That's a county-by-county grant. The federal government has really stepped up during the pandemic and has provided us with fresh fruits and vegetables and dairy items and meat items. So we're able to offer those nutritious items that aren't always donated. So that has been, a godsend for us, a wonderful commodity to be able to offer. And then, the businesses in our area, they help us through donations and through grants, but they also come and volunteer. We have opened up volunteer opportunities now, and so a lot of times businesses don't want to just stroke a check anymore, and I get that.
Yeah,
I totally
it's
understand
tough.
that.
Yeah.
They want to be hands-on, and so there's always something here at Second Harvest to do. So we can use every little bit of help, whether it's giving your time, whether it's just helping us monetarily, helping us sort food, helping us distribute food. It's constant, and that's really what keeps us is successful, is the community interaction within our mission.
You've changed dramatically, say, over the last 20 years. Where do you see the organization moving into the future? Will it be a different type of structure? Will it be more technology integrated? What are your wish? What would you like it to be in order to be most effective in the community? If you could do one thing to become technologically or just more efficient in one way or another, what would it be?
I think that, obviously the best case scenario is that there isn't a need for our organization. And I am hopeful that the pandemic has shown a light on poverty and the reality that folks do need to earn a living wage. And so I am hopeful that is going to improve, but there will always be those people who are unemployable. There will always be people who need help, and from time to time, everybody falls on hard times. So I don't think that we will ever completely be eradicated. But to the extent of and the extreme numbers that we're serving now, I am hopeful that they will decrease in time. And what I'd like to see is, that we're providing those everyday commodities and things those perishable items, those things that people need on a weekly basis, and that we've got more outlets and there's more opportunity for people to come to Second Harvest and have other needs addressed. So whether we're working collaboratively with other organizations, whether we're all located in the same kind of vicinity so that people can do like a one-stop shop kind of type thing to take care of, whether it's education, it's health, it's food insecurity. That it's easier for folks to access the help that they need in whatever situation they find themselves in. So that's kind of what I see help happening in the future is more collaboration within the different fields of nonprofit work.
Wonderful. That's the exact correct answer.
Yeah, thank you. I get the gold star.
You and I know this from all the years of talking with and participating with other nonprofits in the community. Karen, what a wonderful opportunity to be able to talk to you. Last question I always ask: your board. What type of board do you have? Are they a leadership board? Are they a participatory board? Are they a governance board? What are your thoughts on your board?
I work. I am so blessed and so lucky that I can come to work every day and see the best in people, whether it's our volunteers, our staff, our agencies, and our board. They are a governance board. And some of them have some longevity here at Second Harvest. I've got one member who's been was a founding board member.
Wow.
So yeah, there's sometimes when I have to go back to Jim and say, what happened here? And he would tell me because, you don't want to make the mistakes of the past. And so it's good to be able to sound off on those folks who have history and who are definitely committed to our mission. But, our board gives us the guidance. I kind of think of them as, like the emergency, the firefighters,
Wonderful.
When you need them, they are there. And they let the staff manage what they need to manage, and they are there at the drop of the hat.
I have to say,
but they're always involved.
I'm looking at your board. What an outstanding group of people that participate in your board.
I happen to agree. When I'd mentioned Sue, when she left, she was my mentor, and she stayed around with me for 6 months before she actually officially retired. And one thing she said to me, she said, Karen, never underestimate the value of a good board. And at the time, I didn't really understand what she was saying because I was so green and so new. But as I worked with my board, over the years, I came to understand that and appreciate that. And I've got a great cross-reference of talent and expertise on our board that is invaluable.
And looking at the list, a call to any one of them probably affords you outstanding advice. You've done a great job with the Second Harvest Food Bank, and you haven't been there that long. You have to be someplace 50 years before they put you in the closet. And so you got a long way to go. But one thing is that you have a wonderfully optimistic point of view, which I think helps organizations survive. I congratulate you on that. I want to offer thanks for participating in this quick half hour. So I'm going to bother you again sometime for another half hour. Maybe we can talk about the logistics and different things, and maybe we can talk about outcomes after all this COVID-19 stuff goes away. So accept my hearty thanks for being on the program today.
Oh my gosh, no, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk. And anytime you want to have me come back, I will be there. This was fun, and I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.